best. Certain restrictions apply. Insured by NCUA.
Time to update those old kitchen cabinets? Call the Window Depot today. The Window Depot is not only the #1 warehouse for windows and doors, we now have a great selection of kitchen and bath cabinets at Tucson's best prices. The Window Depot is Tucson's top spot for granite and quartz countertops to finish the new kitchen or the replacement of that old worn-out Formica. So call us today at 290-8545 or 622-6430. The Window Depot, windows, doors, granite, and new kitchens.
Listen up, folks. Debt never works. But you know what does? Even during a crisis? The baby steps. This proven plan has helped millions get out of debt, save for emergencies, and build wealth. So don't stop now. Unless your income has destabilized, stay gazelle intense and keep working your way through the baby steps. It's the Dave Ramsey Show. Weekdays live at 1 on 1030 The Voice. Trusted local news and talk.
This is The Voice, 1030, Tucson's trusted news and talk.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera, alongside co-host Jay Gonzales. While we were waiting to get a hold of Mr. Ryan Finley, we'll talk more about what we're talking about. I guess that Alabama said they're going to at least try to have about 20,000 fans in the stadium. This is never going to work.
That sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot.
How?
But they've got a huge stadium too, though. So that's basically 20%, and that seems to be a number that teams are going to. So 20% sounds about right. But I don't. How are you going to spread them out? Well, here's the question that I had. And again, I hope there's people smarter than me trying to figure this out. When you got 20,000 people, can you sit? Let's say you have a group of 6. Mm-hmm. Can you sit 6 people together? And how are you going to figure that out?
Right.
Are groups of 10 going to sit in one section? Groups of 2 sit in another? How is that going to work?
The family.
Where do you get to sit? And what about that guy who's been sitting at the 50-yard line, 20
Forever.
rows up since the
Mildred.
Civil War?
Mildred, you're going to sit next
Is
to
he
me?
going to be unhappy if he's got to go sit in a corner or something like that?
You don't put baby in a corner, Jay. We'll see what happens. Hey, we have Ryan Finley on the phone now from the Arizona Daily Star. Ryan, how are you?
Good. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
We're just here. We were talking bad about you during the break, but
that sounds about right. Yeah.
I said, first of all, the first thing that's wrong with you is you're left-handed. So, and Steve asked me if you're a power hitter, and I said I've never seen you hit, so I don't really know.
I'll tell you what, man. It's I never thought I'd miss something as simple as softball during all this. But guys, what I wouldn't give to go 1 for 3 and make an error at first base, this Monday or whatever it would be.
Is he being generous if 1 for 3?
Okay, let me. I shouldn't be mean. I have seen him hit the ball, and I've seen him hit it pretty hard. But 1 for 3 is about right.
That's about right.
I'm more of an on-base percentage guy. Walks are as good as hits, guy.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
I have no pride when it comes to that.
That's true. So, hey, are you guys as busy busy is not the right word. I mean, you guys are probably coming up with things to write about.
Yeah, it's a different kind of busy, right? It's, to be honest, with no game schedules or with no scheduled games and local events to cover, really what's tough is trying to find those stories out in the community. And, it's a different kind of busy, right? You're not going to the stadium at 7 o'clock. You're not bugging a guy about an ankle injury. You're calling around and trying to find these good stories. And, one of the stories that made my day, yesterday, I think, in our paper was, a story about a 10-year-old who hit a hole-in-one. And, guys, I'll be honest with you, most August and Septembers, we would be neck-deep in UA football practice and high school football prep and everything else. That story probably wouldn't even register.
You just made Jay cry.
No, I'm good with that. Look, I've got 2 holes in one, so I'm okay with that. I've got 2. Okay. I got to. Now you've made my son cry because he's 27 years old and he doesn't have one. So, and he's been playing since he was about 5. So.
Right. Adam Gonzales, by the way, he has gap-to-gap power, as long as we're doing scouting reports here.
Great.
Adam Gonzales is a lot better than me when it comes to the softball.
And I want to say right here on the air, he got his speed from me.
There we go.
I once was that fast. Of course, that was about 150 pounds ago.
30 years ago.
But yeah, it's that kind of stuff, right? It's different kinds of stories, and how do we come up with content that is interesting? How do we write stories that are something other than, we all fell in this trap in March, the "where were you when the world ended" story, right? And we probably wrote 15 of those, right? Dusan Ristich was here when when the coronavirus canceled his season, and here's how he got home, and
right.
And I think sort of we've moved past that journalistically at this point, where now it's, so what are you doing? How are you keeping busy? How are you dealing with this unknown that's coming up? That, to me, guys, is the real big question going forward, which is, if you're a college athlete, how are you going to spend the semester?
Right.
Do you prepare? Are you preparing for a January football season or a March football season or no football season? And how do you deal with all those unknowns? And so I think that's going to really be the big storyline going forward, is all the unknowns.
Well, I got to ask you, Ryan, I mean, where are these stories coming from? Are people calling you with ideas? Are the writers finding them? I mean, where? Because the toughest time I had as a reporter at the Arizona Daily Star was when I was a general assignment reporter on news side,
right.
And I had to come up with stories, and it was hard. I mean, I knew this town, but it was hard for me to come up with something to write about, and I was always looking for somebody to help me out with that. I mean, where are the stories coming from? How did you find out about the kid who hit the hole-in-one?
How about this? Her dad works, I think, in development at the U of A, and knew a freelancer of mine named P.J. Brown.
Okay.
And he reached out to P.J., and P.J. sent him on to me, and I assigned reporter Alec White that story, and we were able to write it. But, it's kind of coming from everywhere. To be honest with you, is some of it is random emails from people or phone calls from people we know. Some of it is, our reporters just kind of going out and asking around, especially with things like golf. Especially when all this started. I mean, some of it was just calling the golf course and being like, "Hey, so what are you guys offering with everything that's going on? And do you have any cool stories?" And it's just that old school journalism 101 stuff.
So you've been here the number of summers. We've covered things here in the summers in Tucson. You're searching for those stories all the time because it's summer in Tucson. Now
it's
it
been
seems
a
like
long summer.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that
Yeah.
December is going to be like August.
Well, every summer I assign out and I work with each individual reporter on a project, right? And so it might be Greg Hansen's 10 best games in Arizona history, right? And then Michael Lev will count down every Arizona starter from 22-1, that kind of a thing. And that's sort of how we, frankly, fill space and stay busy during the summer. I believe each reporter of mine has done 2 full projects already, and they'll probably do another one between now and Christmas. Simply because, that's how, we're going to continue to produce content. And until there are games, that's what we're going to have to do. Right now we're leaning on sort of all of our reporter skills as much as possible, trying to find these good stories. And again, I'll make this plea to any of your listeners. If anybody out there has a good story, email me, sports@tucson.com. We'll chase it down. We are looking for stories, particularly good stories, to tell in this sort of strange time.
Brian, I'm looking at this little girl right now, and I am upset now. Okay, I've called up the story on my, on my computer here, and I am upset.
Was she 10 years old?
She's 10 years old.
10 years old.
Where'd she have it at?
Rolling Hills. She had it Rolling Hills. It was like a 145-yard hole. I think it was their number 7. We threw some numbers in there about how hard it is to get
I know that hole. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
127 yards. Okay, so let's bring her down a little bit.
Okay,
all right,
127
yards. I want to know what she hit because if she's hitting like an 8-iron there, I'm going to be really upset.
But how about this? 2 things. The most interesting part of that story, I thought, was she couldn't find her ball. She went and she looked for it, and it was in the bottom of the cup. As she celebrated, the rest of her group, a group that included her father, went off in search of their shots, which were not in the bottom of the cup, but far afield, right? They were,
right.
They kept searching while she sort of sat there with her hole-in-one, which I thought was great. And if you want to feel old, guys, check out, we have in there her high school graduation year. I think it's 2038.
We'll be done with Corona by then. We'll be done by Corona.
Oh, man, that's like my over-under.
2028. It's 2028.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. All right.
Still, that's insane.
We're
To
hoping.
think
We're hoping Corona will be done by then. Hey, you talked about your series. I thought Caitlin's story on the track was very impressive.
It was, and that's really been, that's not necessarily a series per se, but it's the byproduct of about a month of work.
Mm-hmm.
These former athletes reached out to us about a month ago, saying that, they wanted to come to us kind of united as a group to talk about these things that have been going on. And, they were able to produce screen grabs from text messages and emails and court documents and Title IX documents. And, basically, we're trying to, I think, get the U of A to act, or to do more at least than the U of A said it had done to that point. And, as you guys saw in the Sunday story, there's some pretty serious allegations in there. And the U of A responded with a statement, which, and you guys are both reporters, statements are so hard to sort of parse when they're handed out, like that. But they said that they had made changes to both their roster and their administrative staff in response to this, but they wouldn't give us many more details than that.
Right.
So it seems as if, and the U of A has opened an OIE investigation into those allegations, and so changes may be coming here soon, or at least some sort of once the investigation is closed, I think that everybody can speak about it a little bit more.
Right.
So we'll see. It's unfortunate, guys. I mean, we've seen some stories surrounding U of A sports teams, maybe not like that, but similar here the last couple of years. And the questions are always sort of, what does the head coach know? Could they have done it better? What services are they offering these athletes? And I think there are as many questions when it comes to that now as there were 2 years ago when we were dealing with other sports and other issues.
Right.
With Rich Rodriguez, for instance.
Right.
And the investigation there.
And you look, you hate to see that, because you hate to see that stuff, is going on. You don't want athletes to having to go through any of that, and you don't want to have a program that's supposed to be, fun and exciting and all that stuff for everybody to have to deal with that as well. So all you want is for this stuff to not happen, and that's the unfortunate piece of all of that.
Well, the problem with that too is it comes on the heels of just something else happening not too long ago.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is you would think, if there's any program that would be very aware of something like that, it would be the program that dealt with the Craig Carter stuff. And I mean, that was really a black eye, obviously, on not only the athletic department but the university, and a costly one, right? I mean, they paid $2.5 million to defend Craig Carter,
right,
in a criminal case that he had admitted to, I believe, and insisted on going to trial over. So it's tricky. And what you hope, I think, in stories like this too, is that the victims who reached out, that this is healing for them in a way, and that the U of A tightens up whatever gaps there are there, so this doesn't happen again.
Well, sure. And when you're doing something like that, what you want is for there to be just some sort of a response, and that's what you're looking for.
Well, and that's why, to be honest with you, I think that this would have been one of those things that got kept in-house at the U of A, except that these athletes didn't feel like they were being either taken seriously or responded to quickly enough.
Right.
Well, let's talk about that on the other side. Can you hang on with us for a while?
Of course.
All right.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Yeah, you're not doing anything, right?
On the other side of the break, maybe you can go 2 for 3 on the story. You can embellish a little on the 2 for 3.
There we go.
Here we go. Let's take a quick break here. Come back with Ryan on the other side on here on 1030 The Voice.
CBS News at the top and bottom of every hour. 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks closed modest Jones Industrial Average climbed 47. The S&P 500 added 11. The Nasdaq Composite closed at a record 11,064, up 118. The job market hit a speed bump last week. The government said first-time fall under one when the pandemic began. Engage without elaboration. Talk soon with the U. Even as consumers keep up with their bills during the pandemic, credit card lenders are turning cautious. TransUnion says the average new account credit line fell 9% in the second quarter, and banks are closing inactive accounts. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
CBS News Special Report.
Oh, say can.
The Chicks helping open tonight's final night of the virtual Democratic National Convention. Before Joe Biden's big speech, others are taking the stage, including one-time 2020 hopeful Andrew Yang, who spoke on the current state of the economy.
He must give this country, our country, a chance to recover. And recovery is only possible with a change of leadership and new ideas. Bold and innovative policies that will get help into your hands in the midst of this crisis are now possible.
CBS's Ed O'Keefe on a blow for the president today.
Today, more than 70 national security officials from the Reagan, Bush, and Trump administrations turned their backs on the GOP and endorsed Biden, saying that Mr. Trump, quote, has demonstrated that he's dangerously unfit to serve another term.
President Trump speaking today.
Joe Biden is a puppet of the radical left movement that seeks to destroy the American way of life.
CBS News Special Report. I'm Matt Piper.
There's a place in our house. For 70 years, Benjamin Supply has been keeping Tucson flowing. Hygiene is our business. We help you achieve extreme clean. Minimize germ spreading with a hands-free sensor faucet. Forget the paper panic with a washlet seat. And speaking of waterworks, a big thanks to plumbers for their essential efforts during this health crisis. Shop our downtown showroom by appointment. Call us at 777-7000 or see all the products online at benjaminsupply.com.
Thanks to Benjamin Plumbing Supply.
These days, most families are concerned with having the right insurance coverage. Protecting your family, home, auto, and other valuable possessions can be challenging and sometimes expensive. Crest Insurance gives you flexible options and solutions while saving you money. Insurance is not one size fits all, and at Crest, we find the coverage that's best for you and your family. Visit us online at www.crestins.com or call us toll free at 888-881-5765.
Tucson's Hispanic Voices, bringing diversity into the conversation. We'll talk local politics while fostering a culture of respect and understanding. Plus, we'll share stories of music, food, art, and culture. Tune in Saturday mornings from 10 to 11 on KBOI 1030 The Voice. Tucson's Hispanic Voices, sponsored by MPG Automotive, HT Metals, the Law Office of Natalie H. Haywood, and music by Gabriel F. Romo.
Tucson's source for trusted news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera, alongside co-host Jay Gonzales. Now, on the phone, we have sports editor of the Arizona Daily Star, Mr. Ryan Finley. Hey, don't you find it refreshing that athletes, and we talk about this all the time, have more of a voice these days than they did not too long ago?
I do. You know, guys, it's funny. Greg Hansen really touched on that early in a column that ran in Tuesday's paper, just about, for 100 years, a coach could kind of say and do to you whatever he wanted, and you as an athlete were expected to either take it, or if you didn't like it, you could transfer, right? Mm-hmm. And, guys, we've all stood on the sidelines of football practices or baseball practices, and we've heard some pretty blue language, and sometimes you hear players really getting demeaned. It seems like there's less and less of that now, or less and less of that at least is being accepted. And, yeah, it's very cool. I think back to what happened at Iowa over the summer. To me, that was the big example, right? Their football program, they had African-American players come out and say, the strength coach and the coaching staff there.
In Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
Right.
Oh, gosh, yeah, after Mike Gundy wore the OAN T-shirt, right? OAN, whatever it is. That T-shirt, yeah, it is nice to see. And, I know that there is a segment of sports fandom that wants everybody to stick to sports all the time, but I think it's about politics. I think this is about young people coming into their own and finding their voices. And, it's nice that they have these voices now. I think they just kind of had to put up with whatever their coaches chose to do or say to them,
Well, yeah, the product of social media. I mean, they're not going to stop ball field or in the locker room or wherever. And what Justin Fields' petition got 280,000 signatures, saying we want to play. I mean, that's crazy that, or think about all the stuff that was going on as these decisions were being made. Trevor Lawrence throws out. It's crazy. The players want to play, and it's fascinating. Look, I can't decide if I would want to be covering sports now or not with all that's going on, but because it seems like your head's got to be on a swivel. You got to be looking for stuff all the time.
Well, it's so funny. Here's a perfect example, right? 5:30 or whenever it was yesterday, Colin and Brendan Schooler tweet out that they're leaving Arizona, right? I don't think it was necessarily a big surprise. But, if you're Michael Lev, who covers the U of A for us and does a great job of it, you kind of have to have your phone on all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not that they've called a press conference and, like it used to be, guys, when you guys and even I were there every day, right? It's not like they call a press conference or a coach tells you on the phone. It's somebody decides to tweet something and it's news.
And then it's news.
And then it's news. And, it's funny. You talk about, know if you'd want to cover sports. I don't know if I'd want to work in college athletics in the age of Twitter. Could you imagine how many sleepless nights people down there must have when somebody tweets something they shouldn't? I mean, it's crazy.
And it's not just having one or two kids. You have hundreds or a few, dozens.
Well, it used to be that a coach would go to bed at night hoping his phone wasn't going to ring overnight. Now it's kind of like you said, you got to keep your eye on your phone at all times.
Well, and there's a fine line, too, I think. What I love about social media is that it gives you a real window into seeing some snippets of these people's lives. It's what we would call, color, right? And, their favorite foods, where they go on the weekends, that kind of stuff. And I think if I was a college athletic department, I would encourage them to share their personality because it's really engaging to their fans. But, right?
Well, it's got to be responsibly.
Right, responsibly. And I don't know a ton of 18 to 22-year-olds who can handle the nuance of that in a great way. I mean, I couldn't when I was that age. My goodness, I'm so thrilled that we didn't have social media when I was in college. I mean, there'd be dumb stuff out there just because I was a dumb young guy.
Well, you can just blame it on your brother. It's okay.
Exactly. Oh, it's always Pat's fault. It's always Pat's fault.
Well, no question about the issue with social media, but it's also a way to get to know the kids, like you say, because sometimes access is not very good.
Access is less good now than it's ever been, right? I mean, and some of that's the pandemic, obviously. You're not going to be allowed to just walk into a football practice or a basketball practice or whatever it is. But that wasn't really happening before either.
Right. No, you guys were. I mean, you guys started getting cut off in the 90s.
Right after Luke left.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's what's so strange. And, it's so funny. I used to complain all the time when I covered U of A football. And I covered them for us from, I think it was 2005 to 2012, something like that.
So Stoops to...
It was Stoops' second year through the end of Rich Rod's first year. Right. And, I remember complaining about not being able to watch practice and training camp. And so one day, Blair Willis, you guys all know Blair.
Yep.
Goes, okay, yeah, sure, we'll open it up. And it was, Sal Point Catholic High School because they had turf. They might have been the only ones who did, them in Tucson High. Mike Stoops wanted to practice on turf. 6 a.m, 100 degrees, watching these guys go through drills. And after about the third day of practice, I dreaded ever bringing the word practice up. I was in for all of camp, right? It was 3 weeks of sitting there watching the same drills over and over again.
Be careful what you wish for, baby.
Exactly. Hey, look, there was a thread on Twitter the other day started by Tom Duddleston. Did you ever have to go to Camp Cochise?
I didn't. That was before my time. I've only heard the good stories, but I get the feeling that maybe those have been cleaned up and sort of they're thought of as the good old days.
It was
tell me, guys.
it was when you think of, it's one of those things where you think about it later. It's kind of like the car wreck that you didn't get hurt in, so you're okay with it, right? You think about it years later. You thought that was cool, but man, being down there for the amount of time you had to be down there was awful.
The worst thing about it was either you stayed at the Motel 6 near the prison, next to the prison,
door to the prison.
Next to the prison.
You shared the parking lot with the prison,
or you stayed in a worse hotel that was just bad.
Yeah.
I remember Hanson talking about bugs and spiders. And
yes,
things that I don't think I'd be comfortable with.
I only had to do it once. No, I did it twice.
I did it 3 times.
I did it twice. The first time I did it, I went to the Kmart, bought myself a fly swatter, and I put a notch in the fly swatter for every fly that I killed in my room. Mm-hmm. And it was, after a week, it was like 200.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
You needed the hat. You needed the
mosquito
had to have spray.
A hat, and it was hot, and you'd get a chair. Also, I don't know why nobody did this before. It's kind of like it was not professional, I guess, to not be standing on the sidelines. I went about a folding chair. I put it on the sidelines, and the next thing, all of a sudden, one of our photographers took a picture of me and put it up on our bulletin board. And I was the only one sitting down, and everyone was standing up. And then the next thing you know, everybody had chairs.
Yeah, I think you're just smarter than that.
I thought I was.
Move.
See, but they don't talk about the drinking afterward, after the stories have been filed at that bar there around the corner.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, though, guys, isn't that the thing that at least us in the journalism business probably miss the most?
Yeah.
Is you back in the day, tell me if I'm wrong, you guys could sit down with the linebackers coach over a beer, and he could tell you who's worth writing about and who's not worth writing about, and some of the backstories that would really inform your coverage.
Without question. Without question.
No doubt. I mean, no doubt, because what you got was, if you had a trust level with, say, a coaching staff or whatever, they'd tell you all kinds of stuff, but you knew what you could use and you knew what you couldn't use.
Right.
I mean, look, again, they're telling war stories, right? The time we've talked about the trip to Texas Tech and in 89, we went and got, Greg Hansen was on that trip with me. We went to the county line because you had to leave the county to get beer.
Yep.
We got enough beer. We brought it back to our room, filled up the bathtub with beer and ice, and the assistant coaches came in our room and we played poker. Okay.
Yeah, night before a game.
The night before a game. They were all done. Bed check was over. It was like, it was like 11 o'clock. And they were still up and around, and they came over to the room, and we played poker in our room.
Ask what happened the next day.
Well, then they got crushed the next day. But let me say, we played poker at other games where they won, so it wasn't the poker. But, I can't imagine that could go on now.
Well, and that's what I would tell people, when I covered football, which was, I don't want necessarily state secrets. I would just like the courtesy of you telling me who's good and who stinks.
Right.
And I'd spend less of my time writing stories on guys who aren't going to play.
Right.
Well, and that's what I miss. There's less of that now, I think, than there's ever been.
Well, I assume that you would say that they have a sense of it's us against them.
Yeah. Well, it's just part of the. I think it's part of the evolution of college football to being. And I talk about football because I covered football.
Yeah, for basketball,
it's a big time thing now.
Yeah.
Everybody's paid an insane amount of money and surrounds themselves with highly paid assistants, and guys don't stay very long. To me, that's it. It's a business.
And then
it has become a business.
And then it's those dang sports information director guys,
they're
right?
The worst, aren't they?
They're awful.
They won't tell you anything.
They're awful.
They never open the wallet. They never open their wallet.
But the one that I know very well, very closely. He threatened me the other day, and I'm like, you can't threaten me like that.
So now we're never.
You guys know who I'm talking about.
And we're never going to have another guest on the show.
Well, that's the problem, right? Good luck getting those guests back on. But then here's the thing too. I will say this about SIDs, and Steve, you've done some of it. Jay, you've done some of it. A good media relations person is worth his or her weight in gold.
No question.
Yeah.
No question.
Because even if the coaches can't tell you stuff, there are ways to convey things without saying them. There are ways to lead reporters in the right direction that helps both their coverage and the team that they're covering, right?
Right.
No question.
Right, because they have a goal, right? They want good stories out about their team and their players and that kind of stuff.
Sure, and it's so funny, I don't believe, 99% of all SIDs I've ever dealt with did not view me as an adversary.
Right.
And it's just things are so much easier that way where, you could get a guy coming off the field, and have an SID whisper to you, like, hey, who's been killing it in practice? It's this guy. And he's going to start on Saturday and nobody knows.
Right.
And so then all of a sudden you're talking to, yesterday's backup linebacker, and, you're shining a light on him because he's been playing well in practice. You look like you know what you're talking about because the guy's going to start on Saturday. It's good. And, that's part of it. I hope that in the age of social media that hasn't been lost. The need to have a good sort of, talker, a good connector of people as an SID. I'm afraid I don't want to see that go away because I think good SIDs are invaluable to reporters and frankly invaluable to their schools and teams.
You were talking about 99%. I thought you were going to go this way with it. 98% of your stories are very positive and happy. I'm saying you as a journalist and all of us as journalists, but those 2%ers, what the hell? They'll get on you.
Those are the ones
two.
They remember.
Yeah.
Those are the ones they remember, of course. Well, and they remember we have bad days too as reporters, right? They'll remember a time when, maybe you ask a question the wrong way or something like that. And that's what's so frustrating is, we're just trying to tell stories of these players and, we could talk about some recent stuff we've run too, but it's like, when bad news happens, we have to cover that.
Sure.
Right.
And Andy Lopez said it best, and you guys know how much I like him. When he was the U of A baseball coach, he would tell his players, he's like, when you do good, they'll write about you. But when you do bad, they're going to write about you. That's the way journalism works.
Right.
And, that's the universal truth that I think sometimes gets forgotten, which is, it's our obligation to write about the not-so-good stuff, too, because, that's our job.
Well, Ryan, we appreciate you joining us, and, I love, talking about this stuff because I find that the profession hasn't changed all that much. It's changed, but not all that much. So here's your next project. We want a weekly thing on where is Greg Hansen, because he just doesn't ever seem to be in Tucson. I follow him on Twitter. He's golfing somewhere in Utah or Colorado or wherever. So I think that's a good one.
He is smart enough to stay out of the heat. My guess is as soon as we get our first big monsoon, Greg Hansen will find his way back to Tucson.
Yeah,
we got to have you back on more frequently there, Ryan.
Absolutely, Ryan.
Anytime, guys.
Looking forward to getting back out on the field.
Your hitting percentage will grow. We know it. We know it.
Oh yeah. I've been hitting the cage real hard here the last 5 months. So,
All right.
Thanks, Ryan.
Appreciate it.
Guys.
Yeah, let's take a quick break here on 1030 The Voice.
We're Tucson's trusted voice for local news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Good afternoon, Tucson. With traffic on 1030 The Voice, I'm
Camille
Tom.
Rivas Rutherford with Coldwell Banker Realty has been one of the top producing real estate agents in Tucson, Oro Valley, Marana, and Vail for more than 20 years. Let her help you find your dream home in southern Arizona. Her passion and enthusiasm for real estate has helped her become one of the most respected and trusted realtors in the area. And she was recently named a recipient of Coldwell Banker's 2019 International President's Circle Award. Camille's approach to sales and marketing and selling or buying a home is second to none. Give her a call at 520-250-5192.
There's a place in our house. For 70 years, Benjamin Supply has been keeping Tucson flowing. Hygiene is our business. We help you achieve extreme clean. Minimize germ spreading with a hands-free sensor faucet. Forget the paper panic with a washlet seat. And speaking of waterworks, a big thanks to plumbers for their essential efforts during this health crisis. Shop our downtown showroom by appointment. Call us at 777-7000 or see all the products online at benjaminsupply.com.
Thanks to Benjamin Plumbing Supply.
This is Bill Buckmaster. Coming up Friday, the Friday Focus interview is with Pima County Sheriff Mark Napier. Joining me in the conversation, Dan Shearer, the Green Valley News. Matt Russell is on vacation, so Dan Gibson, a visit Tucson, will take over the weekend watch duties on 1030. Tucson's voice for trusted news talk, always on 24/7, buckmastershow.com.
Trusted local news and talk. All day, every day, 10:30 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzales. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect just issued by the National Weather Service until 7:15. There's two of them, actually. There's one north of town in Oro Valley that is bringing high-speed wind gusts and heavy rain right now, and there's one south of town near the Tohono-O'odham Reservation, and that one has 60-mile-an-hour gusts and quarter-sized hail. So hail damage is expected. Please take precautions.
The monsoon, maybe?
Dude, I didn't hear you say Tanque Verde area, okay?
Yeah.
I have a problem here.
Well, you see the thing? It's all
Come
over
on,
the
man.
place.
As always, it's circling around my
Dude,
house.
2020 teas.
It's circling around
I got
my house.
trees that are dying and flowers that are wishing for water.
You should see my grass this year. It's awful.
That's everybody's grass. The wind has already blown my Ramada off the base.
All right. Okay, be careful out there, folks.
We're toast. So that was a lot of fun.
I was a lot of fun with Ryan. Again, he's a good guy. I still, I see him as a pretty young guy. He's got a grandfather as his columnist with Hanson. I wanted to ask him. I said, "What's it like telling your grandpa what to do?" But I mean, Greg's been around for so long. But look, there's a place for sports writing and good sports writing, and it's hard right now. Newspapers are going through a tough time. But there's that great story about the 10-year-old girl. Stuff like that is why you read the sports page. Yes, you want to get the scores, but that part has become almost secondary
very
because
much so.
You've got your scores wherever on social media. I want to read stories about people.
Well, I think that's what we try to do here because people ask me now that we're really busy doing this, talking. We don't talk about scores. No. We don't have to talk about scores because we have great guests talking about other things other than the score.
It's all sports related.
And they already know the score.
Right.
So why tell them the score?
Right. And I mean, we are never going to sit here and break down the LA Lakers lineup. After maybe a Monday after U of A football game, whenever there is one. Yeah, we'll talk about the game and different things, but I'm not going to sit there.
No.
You're not going to find me, let me put it this way, sitting there saying, well, Kevin Sumlin should have run this play at this time or this defense. I may criticize some things that I saw. Let's go back to that ASU game where they blew the 21-point lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I will say you shut it down too soon.
Sure.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to analyze somebody's offense and what they should have done, to exploit a defense.
And in fact, what we'll probably end up doing is bringing some people that know more about it than us
that can
to talk about it.
Right. Yeah. Again, we're fans. We're sports fans. Do we know more than other people? Only in the context that
we've been doing this.
We've been doing this for a long time, but we're reading stuff throughout the day.
Sure.
And we're paying attention to stuff throughout the day. Other people are working. I mean, that's to us. That's kind of part of our work. I mean, you've got a job. I've got a job. We do stuff. But, I've always got my eye on Twitter and social media and stuff to kind of pay attention to what's going on, to be prepared to talk about stuff. But you're not going to find me telling, Kevin Sumlin, you should have played this defense or that defense or the other defense.
No. We could second guess maybe a time or two.
Sure.
But, we probably won't do that. In fact, I know your son listens to us. I don't know if his buddies do. They're close to 30-ish now.
Yeah, they're in the 27 to 30
How
range.
we kind of talk about the show, at least before you got here and after the fact, is our audience is almost our age, just a little bit younger, because they're not going to hear, the kids aren't going to talk, those old guys, they don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
But if they want to hear stories about the good old days, like when Adam was a kid, like we did 2 days ago with Jason
that's
Gardner.
What I got threatened about.
But those are good stories. People laugh at those
stories.
Yeah.
They're fun stories, and we're giving people a side of sports that maybe they haven't seen or heard on talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
We're not breaking down NBA offenses and defenses or NFL offenses and defenses. We're talking about people and stories and times and things like that. And I get it. We haven't had a chance to talk much about games because since I joined the show. That time will come.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about U of A football, and this is a big game coming up. They need to win because those kinds of things. But again, I think it's going to be more about the people and the things going on around around the
situation.
games.
We'll know more when the NFL starts, and you come in Monday saying, "What the heck just happened?"
And look, in spite of the fact that my wife is listening right now, when the games get going, we'll probably have some gambling talk, because we love being in football pools and the gambling piece of it. And, and there's people who listen to us who are interested in that type of stuff. And look, it's a much more accepted piece of sports now. And, we'll talk to some of that stuff, not as experts, so
but how you messed up the weekend.
But how I got this bad beat because a punt snap got snapped over a guy's head or something like that, right? So, but we'll have fun with that kind of stuff. And I think that's the kind of stuff that we want to do. We want people to have fun when they come and listen to our show and walk away and say, that was entertaining. That was entertaining. And that's what we're trying to do.
Exactly. We have about 3 minutes left.
Even with the Grump Master behind the glass over here.
Right. So we don't know where Schooler's going to go yet. Still way too early in the game, but someone might say that he might go to where Fields went.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of talk that they're being asked to, that they're kind of being quote unquote recruited,
right?
To go join a coach that they're already familiar with, a couple of players that they're already familiar with. Look, if West Virginia is in such bad shape that they're plucking all of Arizona's players, then they got bigger problems than they know, and that's not to demean Arizona's players, but if they're taking all these transfers in, then what did they have before that, and why are they doing that? But who knows where the school? Somebody threw out. I think I was listening to Jason Shear on the way, and I think he threw out Mississippi State because Mike Leach is over there. And there's some familiarity there. So, look, the whole thing is a network. Everybody knows everybody in all of that.
And it's all a crapshoot.
And it is. And so, I hope for those guys' sake that they get what they're looking for somewhere. I hope they don't land at a school that doesn't play. But, if they're going to, no matter what school they're going to, I think there's a pretty good chance they're not playing.
They're not going to play, at least not a full season.
At least not a full season.
Yeah.
I just again, circling back to where we always start, right?
Because I don't follow him on the daily. You might with Greg Byrne. Has he been
nothing since the weekend or last week when he posted that
photo
of the people not social distancing and stuff?
And that's not flattering,
right?
It wasn't flattering.
Greg Byrne is a savvy social media guy. He was here. He's still there. That's probably one of the reasons he got the job. And he's been crickets since that social media post about the fans not.
What was the caption on it from him then?
He said, "Do you want to play college football?"
Which makes sense.
It doesn't look like you do. Something like that
makes total sense.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
So more of that. You guys haven't had an announcement today?
Yeah, El Tour is going to be postponed. We're going to have the executive director on tomorrow, so we'll see what he says about that. Moving it to April.
Another big event, but hopefully that still goes on. It's a big event for Tucson, and if we can do it in the spring, it's a good time for it.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe another guest or two. We'll see what happens.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks everybody.
Ryan Finley. Thanks a bunch.